Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys an old school album review. And today we're going to be looking into this album's 15-year anniversary. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be looking into Next by Sevendust. Yep, I'm continuing the Sevendust discography after kind of being away from it for at least about a week or so. I've just been busy with a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, let's just dive right into this. Now, let's go back to probably around near the end of 2004 with Sevendust. The band was kind of like, from what I heard, we're going through like a period where I think their first label, TVT Records, I think they got dropped or they left. I can't really remember. And it was around that time when they were touring in support of their previous album, Seasons. Clint Lowry had left the band. I believe he was in a right place, and he wanted to do a side project with his brother Corey. And to replace him, they got Sonny Mayo, who played in like some of those other old school new metal bands from the late '90s with like Snot and Head P and so forth. And his introduction to the band is pretty good. Like him and John's riffing on this is pretty great. And with Next compared to Seasons, I feel like Seasons was more like radio friendly a little bit, but I feel like this album is kind of like dark, especially like musically, and there's some really heavy parts. Well, it still retains sort of like softer part, some more melodic parts, but this album is sort of like has a good balance between the two. And just vocal, like I feel like this album is kind of like really pissed off. Like vocally, Lejean has that moments where it's harsh singing, but then he brings out his melodic vocals. But I feel like the harsh vocals are really surprise that pretty much are from Morgan, their drummer, and his screams are just really grow well, and I feel like LJ and Morgan just do drop on the vocals. The riffing, like I said, are heavy. Like John and Sonny just come up with some great riffs. The bass is a little bit audible compared here to Seasons. And the drumming, like Morgan just has some really great drums on this album. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is the song Hero, which starts off with like typical Sevendust, has a heavy riff, pounding drummings, and some scream vocals from Morgan. Again, and just throughout the song, like LJ and Morgan take turns with the lyrics, and Morgan providing the screams. And though LJ's vocals are effective, like he maintains the harsher vocals right through the chorus while he demonstrated his fantastic like clean vocals. Then we move on to Ugly, which I believe was the first single released from Next, and it's a great one. This song sort of like sees it kind of like them toning down from the first song, despite sort of like it starts off heavy, and Lejean sort of like has his clean vocals throughout. And then the near the bridge of the song, it's contrasting vocal styles from Morgan and LJ. Well, Morgan begins the line with his screams, and Lejean ends with his singing. And it's a really interesting song, vocally. Moving on to Pieces, which is easily the hardest hitting track on the album, and Morgan just makes himself known, not just from his vocals, but his performance on the drums. And the guitars are heavy, the drumming is insane, and the back and forth between LJ and Morgan's vocals just keeps it really at just a really high. Then we move on to Silence. Now, the first riff from this song pretty much tells you that this is gonna be something fucking awesome. It kicks into a heavy verse and then into a melodic chorus, and I just love the guitar work, especially like near the interlude. And it just ends just really heavy. Next song on the album is called This Life, and I feel like while it touches to its lyrical content and has some great vocal performance, but I feel like this song kind of seems a little bit too forced when it sort of like surrounds itself by the heaviness portrayed from the rest of the album. But I do give them some credit for going outside of the box for this one, but it just doesn't fit well with the rest of the album. It just kind of like hits like a bump in the road. Then we move on to Failure. Now, this song kind of reminds me musically of something from Animosity. But after just having a soft track, I feel like this may or may not have been a good spot for this song, but it isn't a bad song. Don't get me wrong. No, that just has a really slow, heavy like riff, and this song just kicks ass by itself though. Then we move on to the next song on here, which is See and Believe, which starts off with a slow kind of like synth part, followed by just a heavy riff. And the verses are kind of like slow, and throughout the chorus, it's very melodic. And then like sort of like the interlude of the song features a great scream from Morgan and just a heavy riff. And I love how, especially the end riff of this song just sounds exactly the same as it was when it started. Kind of feels like a palindrome, if you want so speak. All right, then we get to the last song, and no, it's not the last song on the album. There's still three more songs left. I'm seriously, this next song is called The Last Song. And the beginning of this song is kind of dark, and the verses are pretty good, and the chorus is really heavy and catchy, especially if the lyrics in here is like, "This won't be the first time I ever wrote a song. You bet you this will be the last song I ever write about you," and talking about like, "You piece of shit," and "fuck you." And this is pretty much where Sevendust is just really just angry and pissed off. And from what I've heard about this song, and I heard this song was about like Clint leaving the band and how he pretty much fucked them over and shit. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, just let me know down below in the comments of the video. But that's just from what I heard. Then we move on to the next song on here, which is Desertion, which starts off kind of just typical old school Sevendust, has a great riff, and then the whole song is pretty much melodic, besides like some screams from Morgan, but it just delivers a great punch, and it has a really sick solo and a great riff at the end of the song. Then we get into Never. Now, for this song, for the most part, I feel like the music is kind of subdued, and Lejeune has some clean vocals throughout, but the chorus is really just up-tempo and very catchy. And I feel like it's just a weird song. And then the album closes with Shadows in Red. Now, this is like the first like acoustic song that's like fully acoustic, and this song pretty much has a positive vibe after the last song, Never. And I don't know, it's just pretty much interesting that it just ends just really soft and acoustically. But it has some good guitar work. Now, overall, Next by Sevendust is a pretty interesting album, actually, coming from Seasons. Like, it's totally, like, they pretty much made a 180 turn compared to that. So if I have to give this album a score, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10.